your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're talking about brain injury, the challenge that literally changes people's lives. Brain injury spans many co-occurring problems. Mental health, child abuse, homelessness, substance abuse, and strokes are all part of the world of brain injury we will explore today. We're joined by certified brain injury specialist Brandi Jensen with the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa. Brandi, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Peter. I am thrilled to be here. It is such an important topic, so I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk a little bit. I'm the Director of Programs and Services with the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, and so my role is to lead a team of resource facilitators that manage caseloads of individuals for our organization, families and survivors of brain injury, and helping them navigate services and resources in Iowa. I've been with the organization since 2009 and in this leadership role since 2013. Our organization really has a few things that we focus on as our core mission. The first is that resource facilitation component. Here in Iowa, we have a specialized sort of approach to resource facilitation called neuro-resource facilitation, which requires all of our staff to have that certified brain injury specialist certification, so they can help those individuals navigate the very technical things that they're dealing with after brain injury, rehab, agencies, that sort of thing. We also offer a variety of other supports and services like support groups. We offer our gold standard brain injury resource tote bag that goes out to families and over 400 different service providers and professional brain injury partners in our brain injury resource network.
Yeah, so if I was going to ask the average Iowan, let's rank 1 to 10 the issues in Iowa that are really important. Brain injury doesn't show up on that list a lot, yet it's pretty widespread. What are the numbers like in Iowa for people dealing with these issues?
Yeah. So in Iowa, currently, there is actually approximately 100,000 individuals that are living with long-term disability from brain injury. The large majority of individuals with brain injury sustain their brain injury as a result of falls first. That's the leading cause of brain injury, and then motor vehicle accidents as well. We also know that stroke is a brain injury, and about 15% of the individuals that we're serving in our work that we do are individuals that are survivors of stroke, and we're really currently seeking to expand that reach as well. A lot of individuals don't really connect that a stroke is a brain injury, so our resources are available for those individuals as well.
Yeah, I talked about all these co-occurring things that are related to brain injury. What's like a simple definition of brain injury, if it's possible?
Yeah, so a traumatic brain injury is a brain injury that occurs from some sort of external force. So that kind of lends to the understanding of how falls, for example, is the leading cause of traumatic brain injury, motor vehicle accidents, where you're actually your skull and brain are coming into contact with some sort of external force. An acquired brain injury, which a traumatic brain injury is a type of acquired brain injury, is really that category of all other brain injuries. So things like stroke, things like brain tumor, medical conditions that lead to brain injury, anoxia, which is that lack of or loss of oxygen to the brain that can happen perhaps after things like a heart attack or those sorts of things.
We focused on this show with a lot of guests that talk about the young children and high-risk behavior. Mm-hmm. What's sort of the scope of problems with like children and play and brain injuries? Or is most of it in car accidents? I mean, where are kids most at risk in Iowa?
Yeah, it's interesting that you ask that. So falls is the leading cause of brain injury for young children, that 0 to 5. in addition to older adults, which is a little bit more expected. We live in a cold state here in Iowa, and so slips on the ice, that sort of thing, and a variety of other sort of risk factors do lead to that falls being the leading cause for older adults. But it is also the cause for those really young children, age 0 to 5. When you get above that age 0 to 5 range, more of that young to young adult age range, motor vehicle accidents, and other types of accidents with vehicles that are motorized. Motorcycles, mopeds, that sort of thing.
And our helmets and seatbelts things that are like more likely not used when there's a traumatic injury in an accident or a motorcycle, or is it 50-50, 6 one, half dozen the other?
That is a great question as well. Unfortunately, yes. Not using your seatbelt and not wearing a helmet definitely lead to more brain injuries, more traumatic brain injuries. We know that to be the case.
We're going to take a short break, and after that, we'll continue our conversation with Brandi Jensen and learn more about brains. See you after the break. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and here with Brandi Jensen from the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa. We're talking about brain injury and the many ways Iowans face the powerful physical and emotional challenges of brain injury in their lives. But one fascinating thing is how many different populations in Iowa deal with brain injury issues. And I thought these numbers were amazing. Brandi, share some of those with us.
Yeah, it really does touch a variety of different groups of individuals. Just to speak to some of the reach that you see brain injury reaching, I'll talk a little bit first about substance abuse and severe mental illness, which in our world of human services, we like to kind of refer to as the multi-occurring conditions concept. We know that 72% at a minimum of individuals that are in treatment for those conditions, substance abuse and mental health conditions, are reporting that they have sustained a brain injury at some point in their life. Strokes are another example of individuals that are really types of brain injuries that people don't always make that connection that stroke is a brain injury. And when you look at these statistics here, I mean, stroke is the 5th leading cause of disability in this country, and that is a brain injury. So just to kind of highlight a few there.
Now, I also know that the high percentage of children that have been abused under 3 years of age have traumatic brain injuries, and they probably are not often detected because they may not be getting medical intervention. Homelessness has homeless individuals have 5 times a greater chance to get a brain injury, and over 50% of refugees come to the country have brain injury. So there is a lot of credible information that says we need to be paying attention to brain injury. And though these are both physical and emotional paying attentions, how does that work from your point of view?
Yeah, so when we work with individuals with brain injury, we are really seeing the spectrum of different things that they are navigating, from physical and medical issues, in their day to day, which is then going to in turn impact their employment, their ability to participate in their day to day household responsibilities, that sort of thing. People really see that physical medical component, and it's something that is obvious to the eye, and so it's something that people pay attention to a little bit more. Now, the cognitive and emotional and behavioral components that take place after a brain injury are the pieces that the general public doesn't always understand and grasp as well as the physical and medical symptoms. And so a lot of individuals are experiencing things like significant memory loss, significant disorganization, and attention and concentration issues, and also things like mood and anxiety changes. And so those are all things that can absolutely, sometimes even more so than the physical impairments, impact their ability to move forward and have success in their rehab, in their employment, in school for children, for example. An interesting really thing that you see a lot with children with brain injury is that a lot of times when they experience their brain injury when they're younger, they may not necessarily display all of the symptoms and changes right away, because the brain is young. And as the brain matures, that brain injury can create a barrier to the development that you would want to see that child develop normally. And so 2 years later, 4 years later, you may start to see that child is now experiencing difficulties in learning math, or is now displaying difficulties in the classroom, or behavior changes or mood changes that weren't present at first. And that's because of the developmental stages that you see with children as opposed to adults.
So it's not necessarily like a glass breaking and you can say, oops, the brain might have gotten hurt. That there may be, attention span. Somebody might think, I'm just having a couple of bad days. Things aren't feeling right. All of these things beg for not just looking for mental health issues, but a screening for a brain injury. And what positive things, is it a situation here where the younger or the sooner in an issue somebody screens for brain injury, is it easier to get to the root of the problem and help that person heal?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, here in the state of Iowa, there is, we've had in place here a couple of years, a recommended brain injury screening tool that is designed for service providers and agencies to use who are not formal brain injury experts, so doctors or rehab centers. It asks the question, basically, and it asks a series of questions about your experience, if you've had a fall or if you've had some of these different situations arise that may have led to a brain injury. So it can give that service provider, let's say it's a mental health service provider, kind of that cue to say, this individual noted that they've experienced 5 concussions during high school sports. We didn't know that. And so making that referral then to primary doctor to dig into that in the medical testing realm of it. And then they can certainly make a referral to our organization as well, to see what resources are out there.
Well, that's a great cue to take a short break when we can ask you to come back and talk about the Brain Injury Alliance and some of the things that inspire you to do this work. See you all after the break.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking with brain injury specialist Brandi Jensen and the importance of raising awareness of an often complex set of issues about brain injury and helping people dealing with the challenge of brain injury. Tell us more about what you're doing.
You know, at the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, we are so fortunate to have some programs and services that are developed to really support the Iowans that are out there living with brain injury in their home every day. The individual, the survivor, the families, even supporting professionals that are working with individuals. Over 25 years ago, there were some really important volunteers that came together here in our state of Iowa to bring to life what was then called the Iowa Head Injury Foundation. And there was a little bit of money, and these were mothers, fathers, and spouses of individuals with brain injury who left the hospital, and their families really didn't have any idea what to do with their loved ones. And they took it upon themselves to learn how to be the best advocates that they knew how. And because of them, today in 2022, we have a state-funded program to provide supports and services to these individuals in the form of resource facilitation, support groups, training to professionals and to families, in addition to a variety of other smaller projects that we do that involve outreaching to underserved populations and groups in Iowa. And working with specialized groups as well with some of the specialized grants that we get. So for example, we've done some work with the homeless population and individuals in the prison system as well.
You know, we talk about 100,000 people diagnosed with some form of brain injury, but that doesn't take into account the family members, the co-workers, a member of the community. I mean, this problem, we get to the point where hundreds of thousands of people are now touching the lives of somebody, caring for somebody with brain injury or somebody with brain injury. That there isn't an Iowan that probably wouldn't come into contact with somebody dealing with this challenge.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's fascinating. How about veterans and PTSD? I mean, do you see a lot of correlations with brain injury and PTSD events?
Very much so. And there's actually a lot of research being done out there right now on the overlay between PTSD and brain injury. We know a lot of individuals carry both those diagnoses when they were in situations. But there's actually some work being done now on whether PTSD is its own form of a brain injury. What
are some of the programs that really get you excited and inspired to come to work in the morning? What are some of the things you can sort of shout out about here?
Yeah, I think the advocacy component of what we do is really what really gets me out of bed every day and keeps me involved in helping these individuals, because people don't sign up for a brain injury. They don't sign up to be a caregiver of a brain injury. And the work that goes on the caregiver is unscripted, and they are not prepared for that. So the work that we get to do directly with the callers that we work with on helping them understand what their rights are to different services, what the eligibility is, what the resources look like, helping them get connected to what they need because they have no idea where to start. And then providing that next level of advocacy with those individuals on teaching them how to be an advocate for themselves, because people don't always really know how to do that either. And so, you know, being on three-way calls with them to their employer or to an office that is maybe trying to tell them they can't come back because they've missed 3 visits. Well, this individual has memory problems and they're forgetting, and nobody's working with them on what the accommodations are that need to be in place for that individual to be able to better remember their appointments. So it's all of those pieces of advocacy that we do with the individuals. and the systems advocacy that we're able to do. We work on an annual basis to put out an annual statewide needs assessment. So we hear directly from people that are impacted by brain injury. We take those responses and we work directly with the Governor's Advisory Council on Brain Injuries and the legislators, and push for increased funding for brain injury, increased reduction of the brain injury waiver waiting list, which is a service that supports people in their homes, in addition to a variety of other things that we regularly rattle about at the State House on an annual basis.
So when we look at this issue, it seems so emotionally charged for the caregiver. Do you have support services there too? Because I mean, there's obviously a grieving process, a rebuilding process. I mean, it's just a total reorientation of one's life. Do you also work with the people in that way?
In every day, from every level, from taking that initial call from a spouse in tears to just, listening. That first day, sometimes all we do is listen for 30 minutes and let them know that we're here to listen. We're going to move forward and be a support to you. And we're going to send you a packet. That's all we get accomplished in day one sometimes. But then working with that individual over time.
That's fantastic. We're going to take a short break. We come back. We're going to ask Brandi to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration. You don't want to miss this. See you after the break.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we're talking about brain injury and how it spans many co-occurring problems, including mental health, child abuse, substance abuse, strokes. Let's see what insights and advice and inspiration Brandi has to share. And I'm going to start her off because I'm curious about the effect of stigma on work in brain injury. I knew a person that had a brain injury and it severely impeded their ability to speak, but their brain worked perfectly and their hearing was perfect. And knowing that, I still had a hard time connecting. It's like I tried to talk slower. I was adjusting to things that made no sense. And it took 4 or 5 times meeting this person, knowing them, to get comfortable in myself, to not look at that impediment as some kind of condemnation of all other parts of their life. I don't know. How does this has got to be difficult for your work in this business.
It is. It's difficult. You do definitely see individuals that specifically with the speech and the language impact from brain injury can be difficult. Other types of cognitive or communication changes that can really, like you said, can impact your understanding of that person, and assumptions go into place sometimes. So I would just really encourage listeners to sit down with someone with a brain injury or a stroke in your life and get to know them. Listen and be patient with them. And really, I think that if you are able to just really try to give that individual an opportunity to get to be known on a personal level, that you'll understand a little bit better. I've been doing this job, like I said, since 2009. And I can tell you right now that the most that I've learned about people with brain injury isn't from the conferences and the certifications and the professionals that I work with. I learn a lot from them, but I absolutely hands down learn the most from the people that I talk to every day that are impacted by brain injury directly.
That is just fascinating, because I just focused on one thing, which was speech, but there are all sorts of other things, especially dealing with people with stroke. You know, dealing with elderly people with strokes, it's like we tippy-toe around them. And I say we, the sort of person, me, that's trying to figure out how to live in a world that's not the way my brain says is perfect, and understand where they're coming from, what they're doing. And you think one-on-one contact with people that have had brain injuries is really helpful for that, for people.
It's so helpful for them. And it not only provides that person the opportunity to practice the skills that they need to be practicing with communication, and, just social skills and those sorts of things that can be absolutely impacted by brain injury, but it really teaches you as the individual how to have those interactions with someone that is impacted by a brain injury, and to help you understand that they're just a human being that has these changes after a brain injury, and they didn't sign up for this by any means.
We have a little bit of time left, but just in that time, could you talk about what parents should do with children talking about brains and brain injury?
Oh, so I got to plug prevention first, of course. If you've got kids out there that are riding their bicycles, their scooters, motorcycles, mopeds, that sort of thing, please consider a helmet. We know that saves lives and reduces brain injury and concussion. I guess also the other thing that I would focus maybe on is just thinking about concussion. We see a lot more emphasis on this with children playing sports, and concussion is a brain injury. And we've got some tools and some resources that we know are best practice that help that child recover from concussion and get back to time that they need.
That's fantastic. I'm great. There's an optimistic view for healing and help, and thank you for everything the Brain Injury Alliance does. Thank you all for watching today. Check out our website at healthyiowa.org, and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration on MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.